He remembered the day she walked away, choosing money over love. 18 years later, he stood before her, successful, unshaken, and the painful proof of everything she lost. This isn't just a family betrayal story. It's a haunting tale of regret, sacrifice, and redemption. When a mother chooses wealth over her son, fate delivers the one reunion she never expected and may not survive. If this story struck a chord with you, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're tuning in from. Tomorrow, I've got another unbelievable story coming your way, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.
The camera opens on a sprawling suburban house, polished glass windows, manicured hedges, a driveway lined with luxury cars. Inside, Kira sits at a vanity, brushing her ash-blonde hair. The soft light of the room flatters her pale features, but her eyes carry the faint blue of sorrow. She pauses, setting the brush aside, and opens the top drawer of her vanity. Inside rests a small, worn photo, a younger her with Lennox, strong and smiling, holding a little boy with curls and hazel eyes, Jason, at age 6. Kira's fingers linger on the picture, trembling as if touching something forbidden. She quickly slips the photo back, shutting the drawer firmly as footsteps echo in the hallway. From outside, muffled voices call her name, a housekeeper reminding her of the evening gala. Kira forces a smile in the mirror, reapplies her lipstick, and adjusts her pearl necklace. To the world, she is polished, composed, and content. But in that brief moment alone, the truth bled through. Wealth filled her house, but regret filled her heart. Across town, the world looked very different. The clatter of tools and the low hum of an engine filled a modest auto shop. Lennox, now 46, stood beneath the hood of a car, grease smudging his navy work shirt. His dark skin glistened with sweat as he tightened a bolt, then straightened with a weary sigh. "Dad, you need to take a break," a young mechanic called from across the garage. Lennox chuckled, wiping his hands on a rag. "Breaks don't pay bills, son. Hard work does." His words carried the weight of years. Nights when he works double shifts, mornings when he packed lunches with barely enough to spare, afternoons he spent teaching Jason to push through when the world said no. On the wall of his office, framed newspaper clippings told their own story. Local man opens auto shop after years of struggle. Father and son, building success together. Lennox's pride wasn't in the business alone. It was in the boy he had raised to become a man. That boy was now a man in his own right. Jason, 20, stood in a sleek university lecture hall, rehearsing for an upcoming speech. His light caramel skin caught the glow of the projector, his hazel eyes sharp with focus. Dressed in a crisp white shirt with rolled sleeves and tailored navy trousers, he carried himself with quiet assurance. He tapped the microphone, then began to practice. "My name is Jason. I grew up watching sacrifice, resilience, and love carry my father and me through struggles that could have broken us. Tonight, I stand here not just as a student or a young man, but as proof of what perseverance can build." He stopped, glancing at his reflection in the window. For a moment, he wasn't the confident young leader everyone admired. He was the boy who once stood by a window, waiting for a mother who never came back. His jaw tightened, but he exhaled slowly, pushing the thought aside. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through recent messages. At the top, "Dad, don't forget dinner tonight. Proud of you, always." Jason smiled faintly, replying with a simple heart emoji. The narrative shifted between them like a pendulum. Kira dressing in jewels but drowning in silence, Lennox covered in grease but brimming with pride, and Jason balancing success with scars that never fully healed. That night, Kira's chauffeured car pulled up to a grand event hall. Chandeliers blazing, men in tuxedos, and women in gowns glittering like stars. She stepped out, graceful, poised, the embodiment of the wealthy world she had chosen. Inside the same building, Jason adjusted his tie nervously backstage. A student usher whispered, "You're up after the mayor's speech." Jason nodded, taking a steadying breath. He had prepared for this moment for months, ready to stand before a crowd as one of the city's youngest honorees for achievement. The hall darkened. Applause filled the room, and Jason stepped into the spotlight. His voice carried strong, his words weaving a story of resilience, gratitude, and triumph. The audience leaned in, captivated by his eloquence and presence. Among them, Kira froze. Her eyes locked on him, recognition hitting like a tidal wave. The boy she had left, no, the man he had become, stood on that stage, commanding the room with a dignity she could not buy. Her breath caught in her throat. The pearls around her neck suddenly felt heavy, suffocating. Her hands trembled against her gown. Jason's gaze swept across the audience, steady and calm, until it landed on her. For a fleeting second, his composure cracked. His hazel eyes lingered, hardened, then shifted away as he continued his speech. But Kira knew. He had seen her. He remembered. And though not a word had been exchanged, the past she had buried was no longer silent.
The applause thundered through the grand event hall as Jason finished his speech, his final words ringing with conviction. Success isn't what we're given. It's what we build from sacrifice, resilience, and love. I owe everything to the man who never gave up on me, my father. The audience rose to their feet, clapping, cheering. Jason bowed his head respectfully, his hazel eyes sweeping across the room once more. And there she was, Kira, sitting in the third row, pearls gleaming against her pale throat, hands folded stiffly in her lap. Her eyes glistened, but not from pride, from something closer to fear. Jason's chest tightened. For a split second, he was no longer the confident young leader. He was the boy at the window again, watching her walk away, her perfume fading into silence. The applause dulled in his ears. The room blurred. Only her face remained. Then he snapped his gaze away. Straightening his shoulders, he forced composure back onto his features. With a polite smile, he stepped from the stage, leaving behind whispers of admiration and respect. Backstage, Jason's phone buzzed. A message lit the screen. "Dad, your brilliant son. Couldn't be prouder." Jason smiled faintly, but his eyes betrayed unease. He typed back, "Thanks, Dad. Heading out soon." As he slipped the phone into his pocket, he turned and froze. Kira stood in the hallway. Up close, she looked smaller than he remembered, her silk gown too heavy for the fragile frame it draped. Her ash blonde hair shimmered under the lights, but the lines around her eyes betrayed years of longing. "Jason!" Her voice cracked on his name. "My God, it's really you!" Jason's breath hitched, but he steadied it. "Mrs. Carter," he said coolly, addressing her by her married name. "Enjoying the event?" The formality cut her like glass. She reached for him instinctively, then stopped, her hand trembling in the air. I never thought that you'd see me again?" Jason's tone was sharp, but not raised. "Neither did I." Her lips parted, searching for words, but none came. His eyes, those hazel eyes she once kissed goodnight, were no longer filled with innocence. They were hard, distant, a mirror of every choice she had made. Before she could reply, a voice called from the hallway. "Jason, they want a photo of all the honorees." Jason gave her a curt nod and walked away. Kira stood frozen, tears welling. For the first time in years, the diamonds on her wrist and the pearls at her throat felt like shackles. Later that night, in her chauffeured car, Kira stared out the tinted window. The city lights blurred into streaks of gold and red, but her mind was elsewhere. She replayed Jason's face, his voice, polite, distant, filled with a coldness that chilled her to her core. She remembered the day she left. Jason standing at the door, his little hand gripping Lennox, his eyes wide with confusion. "Mommy, where are you going?" His voice had croaked even then, and she had walked away. Her hand pressed to her chest now, as if trying to calm the storm raging inside. The driver asked if she was all right. Kira simply nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Take me home." Across town, Jason sat at the kitchen table of Lennox's modest home. The scent of fried chicken filled the air, a home-cooked meal waiting to be served. Lennox, still in his work shirt, clapped a strong hand on his son's shoulder. "You were amazing, Jason. Your speech, the whole city will be talking about it." Jason smiled, but his eyes flickered. "She was there," he said quietly. Lennox froze. The air shifted. He slowly set down the serving spoon. "Kira?" Jason nodded. "Front row. She tried to talk to me after." Lennox's jaw clenched. He sat down heavily, rubbing a hand over his face. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the faint sizzle from the kitchen. "What did she say?" Nothing that mattered. Jason's voice was steady, but his grip on the fork tightened. "She looked broken. But Dad, I don't know what she expects. An apology? Forgiveness? After all these years?" Lennox's eyes softened with both pain and caution. "Son, you don't owe her anything. She made her choice." Jason nodded, but his expression betrayed conflict. He wanted to believe it was that simple. Yet part of him, the boy who once loved his mother fiercely, still ached for answers. Back in her grand home, Kira wandered the silent halls. The walls were lined with expensive art, the floors polished to a shine, but the emptiness pressed in around her. She stopped at her vanity again, her trembling hands pulling open the drawer. The photo lay there. Lennox, young Jason, and herself, frozen in time before everything fell apart. Her tears spilled freely now. She pressed the photo to her chest, whispering, "I'm so sorry. Jason, I'm so sorry." But the house answered with silence. And somewhere across the city, her son sat at a crowded dinner table, surrounded by warmth she could no longer
The city
claim.
buzzed with chatter the morning after the event. Jason's name was everywhere. In the local papers, on social media feeds, praised as the son of resilience. But for Jason, the only thing that replayed in his mind was her face. Kira, the mother who once kissed his forehead before bed, who left him standing in the doorway clutching his father's hand. The mother who sat in the front row last night, pearls gleaming like chains around her throat. His chest tightened. He shook the thought away, burying himself in work and studies. Kira, however, could not shake him from her mind. She paced the halls of her lavish home, each room echoing with loneliness. Her second husband was away on business, as he often was, and the silence pressed down like a punishment. Her phone lay on the marble counter. For hours, she stared at Jason's profile in the event program, her fingers hovering over the number of the organizers, tempted to find a way to reach him. Finally, she whispered to herself, "He deserves to hear me out, doesn't he?" She called. The organizer hesitated, but eventually passed along Jason's university schedule. That afternoon, Jason exited a lecture hall, binder under his arm, when he saw her, Kira, waiting outside the campus building, her champagne-colored coat draped over her frame, clutching a small purse as if it could shield her from the stares of passing students. His heart slammed against his ribs, but his face remained composed. He adjusted his grip on his binder and walked past her as if she were invisible. "Jason," she called softly. He didn't stop. Her heels clicked as she followed. "Jason, please, just a moment." He stopped then, turning sharply, his hazel eyes narrowing. "You had your moment. 18 years of it. You made your choice." Her lips parted, but no sound came. The words she had rehearsed all morning evaporated under his stare. "Don't come here again," Jason said, voice low but steady. "I don't owe you anything." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving her trembling in the autumn wind. That evening, Lennox noticed the tension in his son's shoulders as they ate dinner. "She came to campus today," Jason admitted, stabbing at his food with his fork. Lennox's jaw tightened. "What did she say?" "Nothing that mattered. I didn't let her." Lennox exhaled slowly, setting down his fork. "Son, listen to me. You don't need her. Everything you've become, everything you are, it's because of your own strength and what we built together." Jason's voice cracked, frustration spilling out. "Then why does it still hurt? Why does seeing her feel like ripping open a wound that never healed?" Lennox's eyes softened, but his tone was firm. "Because you loved her, and she walked away. That kind of pain doesn't vanish, but you can't let it rule you either. She made her choice. Don't let her steal your peace now." Jason swallowed hard, nodding, though his chest still burned. Meanwhile, Kira sat alone in her bedroom, the city lights glowing through the window. She stared at her reflection, mascara streaking down her cheeks. For years, she had justified her decision, told herself she left for a better life, for stability, for opportunity. But seeing Jason now, his strength and dignity forged without her, shattered the lies she had clung to. "He hates me," she whispered into the silence. "And he has every right to." Her hand trembled as she lifted the photo from her drawer again. Lennox, Jason, and her, back when love had still lived in their home. For the first time, she wondered if her regret had come too late. Over the following days, Jason avoided the places he thought she might appear. He skipped campus events, walked different routes, buried himself in assignments, and worked at Lennox's shop. But no matter how hard he tried, her face lingered. The trembling in her voice when she said his name, the tears in her eyes. And late at night, lying awake in his room, he wondered, what did she want from him? An apology? Forgiveness? Or just a chance to ease her own guilt? He clenched his fists, shutting the thought away. "She left me," he whispered into the dark. "That's all that matters."
The autumn evening buzzed with anticipation at the city's annual charity gala, a gathering of leaders, donors, and honorees. It was the kind of event Jason normally avoided, but this year, the organizers insisted. His story of resilience and success was a centerpiece of the fundraiser. He reluctantly agreed, arriving in a sharp black suit Lennox had helped him choose. His father clapped him on the back before he left. "Remember, son, walk in with your head high. You earned this. No one can take that from you." Jason smiled faintly, but a part of him braced for what he feared. Her presence. Inside the ballroom, crystal chandeliers bathed the guests in warm golden light. Waiters weaved through the crowd with trays of champagne. Jason shook hands, exchanged polite words, but his eyes scanned the room warily. And then he saw her, Kira, standing near the far wall, draped in an emerald gown that shimmered under the lights, pearls at her throat as always. She was speaking with a group of women, laughing politely, but her gaze kept flicking across the room, searching. Their eyes locked. Jason's jaw clenched. He turned sharply toward the refreshment table, trying to vanish into the crowd. But fate was unrelenting. "Jason," the event coordinator waved him over, "we'd love a photo with some of our major donors." Jason stepped forward and found himself standing directly beside Kira. The flashbulb popped. Cameras captured him straight-backed, dignified, while Kira's smile faltered under the weight of tension. "Jason," she whispered after the cameras shifted, "please, just hear me out." His voice was low, even, but laced with steel. "This isn't the place." Her hand trembled at her side. "I know, but I don't know if I'll get another chance." After the photos, Jason slipped toward the balcony to breathe. The city lights stretched out below, crisp air cooling his flushed face. He gripped the railing, his mind racing. The door creaked open behind him. "Jason," He turned. Kira stood there, alone. He exhaled slowly, resigned. You don't quit, do you? I can't. She stepped closer, clutching her hands together. I know I don't deserve to be here, to even say your name. But please, I need to tell you why. Jason's laugh was humorless. Why? So you can ease your conscience, so you can rewrite the story in your favor. Her eyes filled with tears. No, so you can know the truth. Jason's voice sharpened. The truth is, you left me. I was old enough to remember. I stood there in the doorway asking where you were going, and you just walked away. Her shoulders sagged as if the words crushed her. I thought I was giving you a better chance, that with money I could... No, his voice cut like glass. You didn't think of me. You thought of yourself. You chose a mansion over a son. Her tears spilled freely now. I regret it every day. Jason's chest heaved, anger battling sorrow inside. He turned away, gripping the railing hard enough that his knuckles whitened. The door opened again. Jason? Lennox stepped out, scanning the balcony. His eyes fell on Kira, and his expression hardened instantly. What are you doing here? His voice was low, dangerous. Kira wiped her face quickly. I wanted to talk to him. You've done enough talking. Lennox stepped protectively between them, his broad shoulders shielding Jason. You don't get to walk back into his life like nothing happened. Jason touched his father's arm gently. Dad, it's okay. Lennox looked at him, then back at Kira, his jaw tight. She doesn't deserve a second of your time, son. Jason's eyes softened with gratitude, but his gaze remained fixed on Kira. Maybe not, but I'll decide that for myself. Kira's tears fell harder. Seeing Lennox stand tall, seeing Jason strong and resolute, she realized the full weight of her loss. They had built a life without her, one forged in love and resilience, while she had drowned in empty riches. The three stood in silence, the city lights flickering around them, the cold night air carrying the tension of years unspoken. For Jason, it was the first time they had stood together since that day long ago. His mother's regret, his father's protective love, his own storm of anger and longing, all colliding in one fragile moment. And though he turned to leave, his words lingered behind like a scar. You can't undo the past, Kira. You can't buy back what you gave away. He walked back inside, Lennox following. Kira remained on the balcony alone, clutching the railing where Jason's hands had just been, her tears falling into the night. If this part shocked you, just wait for what's coming next. Make sure you subscribe now so you're always here for the drama, secrets, and endings you won't see coming.
The night of the gala left Jason restless. Long after Lennox had gone to bed, he lay awake in his room, staring at the ceiling. The confrontation on the balcony replayed again and again, her trembling voice, his father's fury, his own words echoing like thunder. You can't buy back what you gave away. But beneath the anger was something he hated admitting, a gnawing curiosity. What drove her to leave? Was there really more to the story, or had she simply chosen herself over them? He clenched his fists against the sheets. No answer could erase the nights he cried himself to sleep or the birthdays spent staring at the door. Still, the questions refused to die. The next day, Jason sat with Lennox in the shop office. Old tools lined the shelves, papers cluttered the desk, but a framed photo of the two of them sat proudly in the corner. Jason at 10 years old, grinning with missing teeth, Lennox's arm wrapped firmly around him. Dad, Jason said quietly, what happened the day she left? I mean, what really happened? Lennox's eyes darkened. He leaned back, sighing heavily. Son, I never wanted you to carry that weight. You were just a boy. I was a boy who remembers, Jason pressed. I need to hear it from you. Lennox rubbed his temples, then finally spoke. She said she was tired of struggling, tired of counting every dollar, of wondering if the lights would stay on. She met someone with money, a man who promised her the world, and she convinced herself it was what she needed. I begged her to think of you, but she She made her choice. Jason's throat tightened. So she really did just walk away. Lennox's voice softened. She hugged you one last time, kissed your forehead, and said she'd be back to visit. But she never came. Not once. Jason's eyes burned. And you carried it all. His father gave a sad smile. I did what I had to. Some nights I thought I wouldn't make it. But every time I looked at you, I found strength I didn't know I had. You were my reason. Jason swallowed hard, guilt and gratitude warring inside him. I don't know if I'll ever forgive her dad, but I'll never forget what you did for me. Lennox reached across the desk, gripping his son's hand firmly. That's all I need to hear. Meanwhile, across town, Kira sat in her empty dining room, a glass of untouched wine trembling in her hand. The silence was suffocating. For years, she had convinced herself she made the right choice, but Jason's words shattered that illusion. Images flooded her mind. The day she left, Jason clinging to her dress, tears in his hazel eyes. Lennox standing in the doorway, anger and heartbreak carved into his face. Her new life, gilded but hollow, every luxury bought at the price of love. She pressed her palms to her eyes, sobbing. What have I done? Her second husband entered briefly, with phone in hand, muttering about business deals before leaving again without noticing her tears. The emptiness pressed harder. Wealth had filled her home, but it had never filled the void of the son she abandoned. Days later, Jason agreed to meet her in a quiet cafe at the urging of the event coordinator. He told himself it was only to close the door once and for all, but deep down, he needed answers. Kira arrived early, her emerald coat draped neatly, but her face bare of heavy makeup for the first time in years. She looked older, human, and fragile. Jason slid into the chair opposite her, his expression guarded. You wanted to talk, he said flatly. Say what you need to say. Her voice trembled. I left because I was afraid of being poor forever, afraid of losing myself. I thought if I married into wealth, I could give you more one day. But the truth is, she broke down, covering her face. I was selfish. I chose comfort over love, and I regret it every single day. Jason's jaw tightened. Do you know what your choice gave me? Nights of watching Dad break his back just to keep us fed. Birthdays with an empty chair where you should have been. A childhood where I learned what betrayal feels like before I learned anything else. Her tears fell harder. Jason, I know I can't undo it. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to understand it wasn't because I didn't love you. It was because I didn't love myself enough to believe I could survive the struggle. Jason looked at her, the boy inside him aching for the mother he lost, the man inside him burning with anger. His voice shook as he whispered, You don't get to rewrite it. You left. That's the truth. But even as he spoke, he saw her shoulders trembling, her face broken, not with excuses, but with raw regret. For the first time, he saw not the woman who walked away, but the woman crushed beneath the weight of her own choices. That night, Jason told Lennox about the meeting. She said she regrets it every day, Jason murmured. That she was selfish. I don't know if I believe her. But he trailed off, his chest heavy. But part of you wants to, Lennox finished gently. Jason nodded, his eyes distant. And part of me never will.
The cafe meeting haunted Jason for days. He replayed her words, the tears, the tremor in her voice, the confession of selfishness. Part of him wanted to dismiss it all as performance, a desperate plea from a guilty woman. But another part, the boy who once waited by the window, couldn't shake the truth in her eyes. On Saturday morning, Jason wandered through the city streets until his feet carried him toward the riverfront park. The autumn leaves crunched under his shoes, the air crisp with the scent of wood smoke. He sat on a bench, staring at the water, when a quiet voice startled him. Jason? He turned, Kira stood a few steps away, clutching her coat against the wind. She looked hesitant, almost afraid, as though waiting for him to send her away again. Jason sighed. "Are you following me now?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "No, just hoping. I thought maybe you'd come here. You used to love the water." The memory flickered in his mind. Her holding his hand as a boy, skipping stones across the riverbank. His chest tightened. "I'm not that kid anymore," he said flatly. "I know." She sat cautiously on the other end of the bench, leaving space between them. For a long moment, silence stretched, broken only by the rustle of leaves. Finally, Jason spoke. "Why now, Kira? Why come back after all these years? Why not when I was 12 or 16, or when Dad nearly worked himself to death keeping us afloat?" She brimmed with tears. "Because I was a coward. Every year I told myself it was too late. And then another year passed, and another, until 18 years had gone by, and I thought, maybe it would be better if you forgot me. But when I saw you on that stage," her voice cracked, "I couldn't stay away." Jason looked away, swallowing hard. "You know what Dad did for me, what he sacrificed. He gave me everything you didn't." "I know, and I'll never be able to repay either of you for that." Jason studied her face, the faint lines etched by sorrow, the regret clouding her blue eyes. She wasn't the flawless image he had painted in his memory. She was human, weak, broken, and somehow that made the pain both sharper and softer. They sat in silence again, but this time it wasn't suffocating. It was heavy, yes, but filled with something unspoken, the possibility of understanding. Finally, Kira reached into her purse and pulled out a small, worn photo. She held it out with trembling fingers. Jason stared. It was the same picture he had seen tucked in her vanity drawer. Lennox, young Jason, and Kira, back when love hadn't yet fractured. "I carried this with me," she said softly, "even when I left, even when I pretended I'd moved on. It's been with me every day, because I never stopped thinking about you." Jason took the photo, his hands shaking. For a moment, the memories threatened to drown him. The bedtime stories, the smell of her perfume, the sound of her voice calling him "my little man." His eyes burned, but he forced back the tears. A picture doesn't make up for 18 years. "No," she admitted, her own tears falling. "It doesn't. But that's all I had. And now, I just want you to know I never forgot you." Jason stood up, tucking the photo into his pocket. His voice was raw, vulnerable. "I don't know what to do with this." "You don't have to do anything. Just let me be here, even if it's only as a reminder of what not to be." Jason looked at her for a long moment. Then, surprising even himself, he nodded. "We'll see." Her lips parted in a silent gasp, hope flickering in her eyes for the first time in years. That evening, Jason sat at the dinner table with Lennox. The older man noticed the distant look in his son's eyes. "You saw her again, didn't you?" Lennox asked. Jason hesitated, then nodded. "At the park." Lennox's expression tightened, but he stayed quiet. Jason continued, his voice low. "I don't trust her. I don't think I ever will. But for the first time, I saw something real in her. Not the woman who left, just a broken person." Lennox studied him carefully, then sighed. "Son, it's your choice. If you want to keep her out, I'll stand with you. If you want to give her an inch, I'll stand with you there too. But remember this, she gave up her place in your life.
Whatever happens now, don't let her hurt you again." Jason met his father's eyes, gratitude swelling. "I won't, I promise." Later that night, Jason lay in bed, the photo on his nightstand. He stared at it in the glow of the lamp, torn between love and anger, memory and reality. For the first time since her return, he didn't feel only rage. He felt something else, something heavier, more complicated. And though he didn't know what the future held, one thing was certain: the wall he had built around his heart had cracked. Just
The
slightly.
following week brought a fragile calm. Jason went about his classes and work, and Kira, careful not to press too hard, sent only a single handwritten note slipped under the auto shop store. "Thank you for giving me even a moment. I'll wait if that's all I can do." Jason didn't respond, but he didn't tear it up either. That Friday evening, a small community awards dinner was held at the town hall. Lennox's shop had been recognized for sponsoring youth apprenticeships, and Jason insisted on attending to support his father. The event was warm, filled with familiar faces, laughter, and pride. Halfway through the dinner, Jason's heart sank. Kira had walked in. She wore a simple navy dress this time, understated compared to her usual gowns, almost as if trying not to draw attention, but the room seemed to freeze all the same. Whispers rippled through the crowd. People remembered the day she left, the scandal it started. Jason's jaw tightened. Lennox noticed immediately, his shoulder stiffening. She approached cautiously, eyes pleading. Jason, please just let me sit at your table, just for tonight." "No," Lennox snapped, his voice like steel. "This is our night. You don't get to barge in and take it." Jason raised a hand. "Dad, wait." His voice was low, conflicted. "Maybe we should just—" "Jason," Lennox interrupted firmly, "don't let her poison this." The tension snapped the air taut. Kira's eyes filled with tears. "I'm not here to poison anything. I just wanted to be proud of you, of both of you." Jason stood abruptly, the chair legs screeching against the floor. All eyes turned. "You don't get to be proud," he hissed. His voice shook with rage, but it carried across the room. Kira covered her mouth with her hand, sobbing openly. "Jason, please." He shook his head violently. "Stop. Just stop. Every time I see you, it's like being abandoned all over again. Maybe I was wrong to even give you a chance." The room was silent, the dinner forgotten. Lennox's hand gripped Jason's shoulder, steadying him, but Jason pulled away, storming out of the hall. On the sidewalk outside, the night air bit in his skin. His chest heaved, fury and grief swirling like a storm. Kira followed, stumbling on her heels, tears streaking her face. "Jason, wait!" He spun around, his voice raw. "What do you want from me? Forgiveness? A son's love? You lost that the day you left. You don't get it back." Her sobs tore through the night. "I know I don't deserve it, but I can't stop hoping." "Hope?" Jason cut in bitterly. "You had hope when you walked out that door. You hoped money would fill the hole you left, and it didn't. Now you're back because you're lonely, not because you love me." The words landed like blows. Kira staggered, clutching her chest. Jason's voice dropped to a whisper, filled with venom and heartbreak. "You're 18 years too late." He turned, disappearing into the night, leaving her collapsed on the steps, her sobs echoing into the darkness. Later that night, Jason sat in his room, head in his hands. Lennox entered quietly, sitting beside him. "Are you okay, son?" he asked softly. "No, I hate her, but I hate how much it still hurts more." Lennox sighed, wrapping a steady arm around him. "Pain like that doesn't go away easily. You've got to decide what you're going to do with it. Carry it or let it go." Jason stared at the photo still resting on his nightstand. Lennox, Jason, and Kira. The glass frame reflected his tormented face back at him. For the first time, he wondered if carrying this hate forever would destroy him just as much as her leaving had. Across town,
Kira sat alone in her darkened home. The pearls at her neck felt like a noose. She replayed Jason's words again and again. "You're 18 years too late." She knew he was right, but still, she whispered into the emptiness, "Please, just give me one more chance."
The night after the dinner, Jason couldn't sleep. He sat by his window, staring out at the quiet streets, the autumn leaves skittering like restless ghosts. His mind replayed everything. Kira's sobs, Lennox's warnings, his own words cutting through the air like knives. "You're 18 years too late." The phrase echoed like a drumbeat. He pressed his fists into his temples, frustration boiling. Why did it still matter? Why did her tears still twist something inside him when he wanted nothing more than to feel nothing at all? The next morning, Jason walked to the shop early. The clang of tools and the smell of motor oil usually grounded him, but today his hands shook as he tried to work. Lennox noticed immediately. "You're burning yourself out," his father said gently. "Take a walk, clear your head." Jason shook his head. "I can't clear it. Every time I try, she's still there. Her face, her voice, it's like she's everywhere." Lennox studied him quietly. "Son, you've carried her absence your whole life. Don't let her presence chain you now." Jason's jaw tightened. "So what? I just forgive her?" "No," Lennox's voice was firm. "You don't owe her forgiveness. You owe yourself peace. Those are two different things." The words hit deep, but Jason didn't respond. That evening, Jason found himself back at the riverfront park, the same bench where he and Kira had spoken days before. He sat alone, the photo from his nightstand in his hand. He studied it, Lennox strong and proud, Kira glowing with youth, little Jason smiling with trust. The image felt like a ghost of a life that never truly existed. Anger surged again, but beneath it was something heavier, exhaustion. Carrying the pain, the bitterness, the rage, it was like dragging chains everywhere he went. He whispered into the cold air, "What do I do with this, Mom? What do I do with you?" The river gave no answer. The next day, Jason received a letter in the mail. The handwriting was shaky, but he recognized it instantly. He almost threw it away unopened. But something, curiosity, stubbornness, or the boy still inside him, made him tear it open. Inside, Kira's words spilled across the page. "Jason, I know I've hurt you beyond what words can repair. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect love. I only hope that one day you can look at me without hate, because you deserve peace, not anger. If I can give you anything, let it be the truth. I left because I was weak. I failed you, and I will carry that failure until my last breath. But I will never stop loving you even from a distance." Jason's hands trembled as he set the letter down. His eyes blurred with tears he refused to let fall. That night, Jason sat across from Lennox at dinner, the letter folded in his pocket. "She wrote to me," Jason said quietly. Lennox's fork paused midair. "And?" Jason stared at his plate. "She says she knows she'll never make it right, that she'll carry it forever, that she loves me even if I can't love her back." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Lennox said softly, "What are you going to do?" Jason's throat tightened. "I don't know. Part of me wants to burn it. Part of me wants to believe her." Lennox nodded slowly. "Then maybe the choice isn't about her at all. Maybe it's about you. What kind of man do you want to be? One who holds the knife forever, or one who puts it down?" Jason closed his eyes, tears finally slipping free. Later that night, Jason stood outside Kira's house. The mansion loomed tall, its windows glowing with warm light. He stood on the sidewalk for a long time, letters still in his pocket, fists clenched. Finally, he walked up to the steps and knocked. The door opened slowly. Kira stood there, surprised, her eyes red from sleepless nights. Jason's voice was low, steady, but heavy with emotion. "I'm not ready to forgive you. I don't know if I ever will, but I'm tired of hating you. So if you really want to be in my life, it'll be on my terms. No lies, no excuses, just the truth." Kira's hand flew to her mouth, tears spilling. She nodded quickly, trembling.
Yes, anything. Whatever you need. Jason exhaled, the weight in his chest loosening just slightly. He stepped back. This doesn't mean we're okay. It just means I'm willing to see if we can get there. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving her in the doorway, sobbing with gratitude and relief. For Jason, the choice wasn't forgiveness, it was freedom, the decision to stop letting her betrayal define him.
The weeks that followed were quiet. Kira didn't push. She didn't flood Jason with calls or show up uninvited. Instead, she wrote short, careful notes, updates about her day, apologies folded between simple words, never asking for anything in return. At first, Jason left them unopened. Then slowly, he began to read. He never replied, but he read every word. Meanwhile, life went on. Lennox's shop grew busier than ever after the awards dinner, his reputation as both a businessman and a father spreading through the community. Jason balanced his studies with helping out, his drive sharpened by everything he had endured. One Saturday afternoon, Jason walked into the shop office to find Lennox fixing a clock radio, humming quietly. "Dad?" Jason began, hesitating. Lennox looked up, brows raised. "What's on your mind?" Jason swallowed. I think I want to let her come to my graduation next spring." Silence hung for a moment. Then Lennox leaned back, studying him. "Are you sure?" "No," I admitted, "but I don't want my hate to follow me into the rest of my life. I can't undo what she did, but I can decide how much power it has over me." Lennox's eyes softened. Pride shone in them, even through his protective caution. "That's your choice, son, and I'll stand by it." Jason nodded, relief mingling with fear. A week later, Jason agreed to meet Kira again, this time at the same park bench by the river. She arrived early, as always, clutching her purse nervously. When Jason appeared, tall and steady, her breath caught. He sat down beside her, leaving a careful space between them. "I don't want to keep rehashing the past. It's done. It's always going to hurt, but I'm willing to see if there's something left. A place for you, maybe. Slowly." Kira's tears spilled instantly, but her voice remained steady. "I'll take whatever you give me, even if it's just a moment here and there, even if it takes years." Jason nodded. "It will take years, and it may never be what you want, but it's a start." For the first time in 2 decades, she smiled at him, not with polished charm, but with raw gratitude. Later that evening, Jason and Lennox sat on the porch, the sun dipping below the horizon. Lennox sipped his coffee, Jason stretched out beside him, the photo, the old one with the 3 of them, resting on the porch table. Jason tapped the frame thoughtfully. "I used to hate this picture. It felt like a lie. But now, maybe it's just a reminder of what was broken and what I survived." Lennox looked at his son. Pride shone in him, even through his protective caution. "You didn't just survive, Jason. You became a man I'm proud of. Strong, steady, and good. That's more than I could have asked for." Jason smiled faintly, emotion glistening in his hazel eyes. "I had the best teacher." The two sat in comfortable silence, the photo catching the last of the sunlight, 3 faces frozen in time, no longer just a symbol of betrayal, but of the road that led them here. Across town, Kira sat alone at her vanity, writing another letter she might never send. But this time, her tears were softer, her breathing calmer. For the first time in years, hope, fragile, trembling hope, flickered inside her. She knew she could never erase the past. But maybe, just maybe, she could help build something new. The story didn't end with perfect forgiveness or a neatly tied bow. It ended with choices. A son choosing peace over hate. A father seeing his sacrifices bloom into strength. A mother living with regret, but finally, a sliver of redemption. And sometimes, that was enough.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine, so do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.